There's a total of 31 different weapons you can equip Jinwoo with, and you have the SSR ones, which are all amazing, and then the R ones, which are, well, R weapons. But then there's SR weapons, which range from being absolutely awful to broken, which is why today I'm going to go over the 5 best SR weapons that you can equip for Sung Jinwoo. And starting off at number 5, we have Karsuka's Venom Fang. And the fact that you can earn this weapon completely for free is not really the only reason why it's in this list, but it's mainly to do with its passive that it actually has. As with Karsuka's Venom Fang, you'll have a 30% chance to inflict bleed on your target when villainous sneak attack hits, which, if you didn't know, is this weapon's skill, which will do 832% of Jinwoo's attack as damage on a 17-second cooldown with a 150 mana point consumption. And if you didn't know already, the bleed debuff is one of the more, well, probably one of the most powerful debuffs, or especially damage over time effects that you can apply in the game, as this bleed debuff that Karsuka's Venom Fang will deal damage equal to 0.8% of the enemy's current HP every 3 seconds, which will last for 30 seconds. So then when it does come to content like Power of Destruction, where the Pitch Black Flame Neo has like a huge amount of HP, it means this Karsuka's Venom Fang will do a massive amount of damage, which makes it overall a really good boss killer. And then also, not to mention, it also becomes way better with all of its additional dupes, as on its first dupe, basically whenever you use your core attack or villainous sneak attack, you'll have a 30% chance to paralyze the target for 1 second, which would just be a 1 second stun, which is really good. Then the second dupe will increase water damage by 8%. The third dupe will add Karsuka's Venom onto the villainous sneak attack skill, which will create a pool of venom on the ground and deal additional damage to targets in the area, which is always nice. And then the fourth and fifth one are always going to be the best ones, as the fourth one will decrease the cooldown of villainous sneak attack by 15%, and then the fifth one will apply Karsuka's Deadly Poison to the target when villainous sneak attack hits, which will basically deal damage equal to 75% of Jinwoo's attack every 3 seconds, and this will last for 30 seconds, so you'll get 10 ticks of this. And then this will also decrease the target's HP recovery rate by 70% as well. And also, because this debuff does last for 30 seconds as well, and because the skill is on a 17-second cooldown, which will then obviously be reduced with the fourth dupe of this, then it means you'll be able to have permanent uptime with this passive as well, which is really good. Number 4 is the Demon Knight Spear, and I genuinely think this is probably one of, if not the most underrated weapon in the entire game, or at least for SR weapons anyways, as this weapon is honestly just ridiculous, as basically whenever you use Holy Spear, which is just your skill right here, which at first glance does a really low amount of damage, being 443% of Jinwoo's attack. However, it does also have only a 40 mana point consumption. But then there's also one other thing about this weapon that just makes this skill insanely good, and that is the Corrupted Spirit effect, which is applied when you use your skill. And basically what this will do, it will completely remove the cooldown of Holy Spear for 3 seconds, so which makes it completely spammable for that duration. And then if we look at the actual animation of the skill, it's a really quick cast, if you want to call it that, and so yeah, you're going to be able to spam this quite a lot. And obviously a 3-second buff is obviously not the best thing in the world. However, with dupes, it can also be massively improved, as on the first dupe, the user will recover 1% of their mana points when Holy Spear hits, which is really good, considering you're going to be want to spam this skill a ton, means you're going to be using a lot of mana. The second dupe will just increase light damage by 8%, always nice. And then we have the third dupe. The third dupe is completely what makes this weapon go from really good to just absolutely broken, which it basically says when using Holy Spear, you'll increase the duration of Corrupted Spirit by 4 seconds. So instead of it being 3 seconds, it will then go to 7 seconds, which is a huge increase, a massive increase in duration for this, which is unbelievable. And then of course, with every SR weapon, of course, you'll be able to decrease the cooldown of your skill, being Holy Spear, by 15%, which is also really useful. And then the fifth dupe will increase the user's attack speed by 10% while Corrupted Spirit is active, and it will increase your Holy Spear damage by 10%. So even though this animation is already quite quick already, with that fifth dupe, you'll be able to make it even faster. Number 3 on this list is another light weapon, and it is Radiru family's longbow, as this weapon is also amazing, as pretty much every time the arrow or flash of light penetrates a target, you'll be able to increase your damage by 4%, which will stack up to 20 times. So in total, just with this weapon alone, you can give Jinwoo just up to an 80% damage increase, which is a massive increase. And this skill will do 904% of Jinwoo's attack, so it's got decent damage multipliers there as well. And then with dupes, basically whenever you use Flash of Light, which obviously is your skill, you'll be able to ignore the enemy's defense by 50%, which is a pretty big value at least. So you'll be able to get a pretty big damage increase through that as well. The second dupe will just increase your light damage by 8%, so this weapon and also other light weapons you might have equipped and skills and stuff like that will also have their damage increased. Then the third dupe is actually really interesting, interesting, as basically the effects of Flash of Light will change so that when the shockwave of the skill hits, which is basically this bit right here, as you can see, then you'll be able to not only knock back the targets by 3 meters, but you'll also be able to stun them as well. So this is going to be really good for buying you a decent amount of time to get your skills to come back with that, and also hopefully save you some time and not waste your dashes and stuff like that, which can be really useful. And then the fourth dupe will obviously decrease the cooldown by 15% of the skill, and then the final dupe will then increase the damage of all attacks by 25% to stun targets. But really honestly, it is just the first part of the passive of this weapon that makes it just unbelievable, just because you can get up to an 80% damage increase. What's even better about this is that it never goes away, as there's no cooldown, there's no duration on this, and you can just keep doing it as much as you possibly can. And then the penultimate weapon on this list is going to be Orb of Avarice, as Orb of Avarice is also just really good, mainly because of the fact there's not really many other good fire weapons, as Vulcan's Rage is not really that great. The Dragon Scale Broadsword, in my opinion, is also not that great. And then you've also got Night Killer, which is whatever, which instantly puts this weapon on the number 2 list, as this is pretty much the best fire weapon that's in the game, as on this weapon's passive, you'll be able to increase the damage of Purgatory by 50%, which is your skill, which you'll be able to see the animation here, has 1008% of Jinwoo's attack as damage, so it does a lot of damage. And then unfortunately, it will increase your mana point consumption by 10%, but I feel like it's definitely a good trade-off, I would say. But then as every weapon in this game does, it gets extremely better with dupes, as basically with the first dupe, you'll be able to, whenever you enter the stage with Jinwoo, you'll apply 20 instances of the Raging Black Flame effect, and then the cooldown of Purgatory will increase by 5 seconds, which, when you start to think of it, it sounds really bad. However, the Raging Black Flame buff and what it does will increase the damage of Purgatory by 8%, and then when the user uses Purgatory, 4 instances are consumed. And so keep in mind you're applying 20 of these instances, which will all each give you that 8% attack increase, which is really good. So you're going to be able to get a huge attack increase, damage increase from this just passive alone. Second dupe will obviously increase fire damage by 8%. Then the third dupe will recover mana points equal to the number of stacked Raging Black Flame instances times 2 every 3 seconds, which will then instantly pretty much somewhat mitigate the increased mana point consumption by 10% through this third dupe right here. And then the fourth dupe will decrease the cooldown of Purgatory by 15%, so again, it's sort of mitigating the first dupe a little bit more as well, and the negatives of it anyways. And then finally, the fifth dupe, whenever the user enters the stage, you'll be able to apply 30 instances of the Raging Black Flame effect instead of the previous 20. And yeah, overall, this weapon just does ridiculous damage, and is probably what makes it potentially the best fire weapon in the game. And then last, but certainly not least, the very, very best, or at least I think anyways, SR weapon in the game is going to be West Wind, as this weapon is honestly just insane. The amount of damage this thing can do is just ridiculous, as its skill Secret Bullet will do will go from 1138% of Jinwoo's attack as damage all the way to 1741.14% of Jinwoo's attack as damage, which is pretty high. And what's also really good is the actual passive for this weapon, as basically if Secret Bullet hits, which is obviously the skill as I mentioned before, when there are no targets within a 5-meter range, which you will actually be able to see within the skill itself, you'll be able to see the circle, that'll be the 5-meter range, then you'll be able to increase the user's damage by 75%, which is honestly ridiculous. The amount of damage you can gain just from this alone is just amazing. But then on to its dupes, and Secret Bullet's first dupe will change the skill effect of Secret Bullet, and it will change it to a charging skill. So basically what this is you'll charge the meter. As you hold down your skill, your charger meter will go up to 100%, and then you'll be able to increase your damage based on how much you've charged it. And this damage increase can go all the way up to 130% depending on how much time you spend charging it. Second dupe will obviously increase wind damage by 8%. Then the third dupe is also ridiculous, as when Secret Bullet hits, you'll apply the West Wind effect, which will increase the damage of Secret Bullet by 30%, and then it will stack up to 5 times, which is amazing. But then when Secret Bullet does fail to hit or you miss it, you'll then get rid of all of these stacks and all these stacked effects of instances of this West Wind buff, and this will last for 30 seconds and can only be applied every 10 seconds. However, at first glance, this will be relatively difficult to achieve, to be able to get a max of 5 stacks. However, the next 2 dupes really make it extremely easy, as the fourth dupe will decrease the cooldown of the skill by 15%, and then the fifth dupe is just insane, as whenever you land a critical hit with Secret Bullet, you'll decrease the cooldown of it by 9 seconds. So with the cooldown reduction of it previously on the fourth dupe, as well as the 9-second reduction on the fifth dupe, it makes this skill just extremely spammable, and you can do a huge amount of damage with it, which with all of this combined, for me, definitely makes it the best SR weapon in the game. It's one of my main weapons I currently use for now, and that is also mainly because it is completely maxed out. I've gone extremely extremely lucky with this weapon, but that's besides the point. This weapon is honestly just a definite must-have and a definite must-build weapon for every player in solo leveling Arise. So there you have it for today's video. Those were my 5 best SR weapons in solo leveling Arise. I think all of them are amazing, obviously some better than others, but if you did enjoy this video, then don't forget to like and subscribe and click the link down below to support me as a creator, which would help a ton, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.